for both schools and the Big Ten.
We are now joined by Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports, with us on 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. Dan, thank you very much for your time. Have you ever seen anything like what we saw maybe on Thursday and Friday in college football?
No, it was wild. I mean, and I think whether you are in favor of the moves or think there should be 24 team leagues or you think the Big Ten should go back to 10, this was like no way to run a business, let alone an industry. Like you just had people making decisions on the fly, switching their minds, and then all of a sudden just saying, all right, let's do it. There was, like if the NFL was going to expand, right, say add 2 teams, or the NBA was going to expand, they would spend years looking at the markets, looking at potential owners, where are you going to play, all this different stuff. This was like the chairman of the Oregon Board of Trustees was on the Zoom while playing golf. He was on the Zoom and continued playing his round of golf. He's taking a call from the sand bunker. I had a Big Ten AD call me because do you know that Eugene, Oregon airport can't fit our charter plane, a 737, can't land it there? I'm like, I did not, but maybe you should have known that before you signed them into the league. Like, no, I don't. Like, it was just wild. It was back and forth, and it's just sort of like on the fly they make these decisions where the schools you're in the league. And so many people are affected, and it's not even buyer's remorse. It was like it was like impulse buying.
Dan, I hope that eventually this happens, but it's clear that it hasn't happened yet. But the leaders of this sport, of which there are some, but there's not one that's in charge of everything, need to get together and say, okay, what's the plan for the end? Like, where do we want this to go? Because right now, it's all reactionary.
It is, and it's a lot of fear-based. It's a lot of like, well, we have to add these 2 schools. Big Ten, it's a lot of TV executives telling them what to do, and then it's the Big Ten going, well, we don't add Washington and Oregon. What if the SEC ends up adding North Carolina and Clemson or something like that, or Florida State? We got to make a move so they don't make a move. And then the Big Ten say, we got to add these guys. And it's like, well, what's reality here? Nobody had to make a move. Most of these deals don't even bring in much more money. And it's not that the schools don't have enough money to run their athletic department, and certainly they have enough money to run their football programs. It's that the sport has gotten to the point where it's about not having enough money to run your football team. It's about having enough money to spend more money than the other guy spending to run their football team. So that's how you get $50 million locker rooms and new weight rooms every 3 years that are renovated, and waterfalls and defensive coordinators, a $2 million buyout, and mini golf in a football facility. Like, none of this stuff is necessary. Almost every major college football program has better facilities than at least half of the NFL. Like, you go to the New England Patriots, they have 1 locker room, they have 1 weight room, they have a field out back and a bubble. That's it. Like, that's all they got. Somehow, Bill Belichick has managed to win 6 Super Bowls and coach football well enough without the waterfall, without the mini golf course, without, 3 indoor practice, all the stuff. So they just spend and spend and spend, and then they're looking for more spend. And I don't even know what you're really adding. Like, you're just adding stability, you're just adding more teams, more travel, all the different things. It's, there's some positives too. We're going to have more good games and all that. The sport will be fine in football. But, yeah, who's running this? What's the point? Where are we going, and why are we going there? I don't know what. You're a Big Ten football fan. You go, great. So exciting we added Oregon and Washington. I don't sense that. I mean, the Big 12, yeah, there's some pretty good teams, and it's not a bad thing, but I just don't know that it was a necessary thing.
I love that you mentioned the waterfalls. That's always my go-to when talking about the excess is Alabama's crimson-colored waterfalls. That stuck with me ever since I first read about those, and that is like the symbol of kind of where we are right now. But in terms of the Pac-12, they're obviously exploring every option under the sun. There's been rumors all over the place, ACC alliance, teams moving there. Do some end up in the Big 12? Just as it all came winding down and the fourth corner school finally left, just what did you kind of make of where the Pac-12 sat, Dan, knowing all of the things that have taken place over the last year, and where do you just kind of sit with where they are and whatever possible future is out there for the four schools?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot for those remaining four, the Pac-4. I mean, Washington and Oregon are looking for something better than going to the Mountain West. Now, look, they've built facilities. They have staff. They have budgets based on making $20, $30 million a year in media revenue. And you go to the Mountain West, you're going to make $5 million. So how the heck are you going to – I mean, Oregon State just finished a $153 million renovation of their house. I don't know all the mortgage rates and stuff, but I wouldn't want to be on the ticket for that. So they got those options, or maybe they can ride Cal and Stanford to some kind of West Coast, Atlantic Coast flank, if you will. Stanford and Cal, I don't know what Stanford has incredible Olympic sports, right? The best in class sports. So doesn't Cal. They're incredible at all these other sports. They're just not that good at football, and even when they are, they don't really generate much TV interest and fan. I mean, so they're scrambling for pretty much anything, any life preserver they can get. But the idea of like sending your soccer team and your volleyball teams and all these teams from San Francisco to the East Coast for virtually every single game is just utter lunacy. I mean, you're at Stanford. You've got to be there to get an education. These classes can't be easy. And if you're sitting there going, well, I'm on the soccer team, I got to fly to North Carolina State tonight for a game tomorrow, and then I got to come all the way back, and then next week I got to go to Miami and do it again. I mean, how would you even do this? And why would you have a chance at a Stanford education? Why would you be just wasting your time flying around playing these things? There's got to be a smarter way to do this than that kind of travel expense, just grind of traveling back and forth across the country.
Do you feel like, Dan, that the conferences will be whatever they're going to be, but they might, in those specific sports, the Olympic sports, whatever we call them, maybe regionalize the conferences a little bit outside of football and maybe men's basketball?
I have a column on that. I mean, I wish they would. And there are examples of that. There is actually a thing out west called like the Mountain Pacific that sports like water polo and beach volleyball, sports that not everyone plays, right? If you're USC, you don't really care if you're playing Long Beach State. Like that makes sense, and that's how it should be. The schools in Texas, there should be like a Texas athletic conference that handles, maybe every sport, but basketball and football, or maybe there's something else, or maybe baseball. But like, if you're Baylor, you really need to be on a plane to fly to Orlando to play, or Morgantown, West Virginia to play these non-revenue sports, or wouldn't you generate more interest, more fans, more excitement, and a lot easier just on a bus and you go play SMU or Texas A&M? Like, do we have to have this division of conference that's so significant in football that it doesn't make any sense? If Baylor and Texas could play a soccer game on Tuesday afternoon, but instead both of them get on a plane and fly 1,000 miles away to play a soccer game, that just doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so I would hope we could get to that. The problem with college athletics is who's in charge, who would even propose that. Instead of, have all your SEC pride or your Big 12 pride when it comes to football or even basketball or maybe baseball. But for a lot of these sports, it's just a grind on the athletes that doesn't really make any sense.
Well, even baseball's 4 days a week. So when you're talking about road trips,
you're talking about Tuesday, Friday through Sunday. Yeah. Maybe more double headers than normal.
Schools to play. You never have to leave the state of Texas to play a bunch of great teams. So why do it? Because a TV executive says your football product can make us money if you do it. Well, that's fine for football. I mean, it's not even great, but you charter a flight. If games are on Saturday, you can do it. But why? it has nothing to do with baseball, right? So I hope they can get to that. I just don't see it happening. There's such rivalries between these leagues that are unnecessary. And just none of it makes sense. The thing about college athletics is no one is in charge. There's a bunch of people in charge, sort of. But nobody has that one thing. There's no Roger Goodell. There's no Adam Silver. And there's no one just saying, hey, guys, what are we doing here?
All right, Dan, final thing. If I would have told you, God, anytime in the last 12 or 13 years, the Big 12 would one day grow and grow and grow and grow and actually do things very well from the time Bowlesby reacted to Texas OU to where they are today, what would you have said?
I mean, if you'd thrown me this 16-team version of the Big 12, I would have blinked. But in no question, since Oklahoma, I think I was on your show right after Oklahoma and Texas left, and it was bleak. It was nerve-wracking. I think at one point Kansas was trying to get into the Big East to save their basketball program. Like it was a all alarm fire. And so what the Big 12 has done since then, both Bowlesby and Yormark, has been brilliant, and it has held this league together and put them in a good position. And both by recognizing that everyone wanted to stay, immediately grabbing BYU and Central Florida and Cincinnati and Houston, good programs that can add to it, negotiating the TV deal early and boxing the Pac-12 out, and then being aggressive and grabbing 4 Pac-12 schools. I mean, it's cutthroat, but it was exceptional business. And if it wasn't that way, it could be 2 years ago or whatever, 25 months ago, it was the Big 12 schools going, are we going to get left out and cast out into the wilderness? Now it's the Pac-12 schools that are doing it. So Great job by the Big 12 and how they handled this.
Dan, thank you very much. Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports with us. Appreciate his time. And I